Welcome to all the Aquarius rising signs of the zodiac to your July 2025 astrology video. Well, three planets this month are going into a retrograde. One of them is actually your chart ruler Saturn, and we'll talk about what that means for you in this video. So sit back, relax, enjoy listening to your astro weather report for the month that is July. Mars is still cruising through your natal eighth house. There's a lot going on with tidying up finances, be it yours or a partnership. So, whoever you partner up with financially, this month of July is all about nutting out the nuts and bolts. What's the meat and bones? What's in the checking account? What's going out of the checking account? Being very, very critical about where you are hemorrhaging money and where you can save it. Topics of death and inheritance may also come across your table with this transit with Mars in your natal eighth house for the whole month of July. Jupiter's still cruising in its exaltation zodiac sign of Cancer. Your natal sixth house for the whole month, in fact, will be here until the 30th of June 2026. So, quite a long transit. This is a an interesting transit for the Aquarius rising signs because that natal sixth house is the house of service, work, injury, slavery, labor, anything to do with illness. And it's sort of contradicting for me astrologically. I'm like, oh, this natal house of, like the daily grind, routine, things that are more dense in life that we have to deal with, like doing our dishes, dealing with injuries, if anything at all, work, and a lot of heavy lifting. That's the natal sixth house. And Jupiter's exalted here for a year in change. All I can surmise from an astrological perspective about this transit for you is that anything that is laborious is easier to deal with. And we'll take it. Like if we have to think of the daily grind, like doing the dishes, cleaning the toilet, going to work, walking the dog, anything that we do that doesn't get a fanfare every day is almost emotionally fulfilling. So whether you're just enjoying the daily grind with this transit a lot more than maybe you have been for some time. And we think of that natal sixth house of sickness and injury and illness. And, with Jupiter exalted here, maybe it's a very opportune time for you to get on top of anything that is foreign in the body, or maybe research and do some analysis on how you can improve anything chronic to do with injuries or illnesses with this transit more organically than you have done for a little while. So, all in all, that's quite fortuitous where we finally get on top of something that has been niggling at us when it comes to our physical bodies or anything to do with injuries or anything that is actually quite laborious on us. So, going from a half glass full perspective with Jupiter exalted here in Cancer, you're having a more emotional connection with your body, and that means that you are aware of what works and what doesn't, and purifying and cleansing and eliminating anything that is dragging you down from feeling your absolute best. So that would be the best way to utilize this transit where Jupiter's exalted in the moon sign. And if we think of where we proactively engage in an environment every day of our own volition or services that we provide, then how is our body responding in kind? Does it feel nurturing and secure and compassionate where we are on the daily? And it's going to be obvious with Jupiter here of what works and what doesn't. And that gives you control over where you physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and metaphysically engage with on the daily and when it comes to your routines. And you'll be sharper and more intellectually and intuitively aware of what favors you and what harms you with this transit. So, all in all, astrologically, the transit's quite good for nutting out things that are routine and almost laborious. You'll be able to intuitively pick up on things that you would otherwise miss or gloss over with this transit. Okay, so happy 4th of July to all my US listeners out there. Let's get into the astrology for this day. So there's a lot going on. We've got Venus conjuncting Uranus. So, yeah, this could be like the beginning of the end of a new paradigm in a family unit, with a home, or something you do within private, behind closed doors. This is whether you purchase new bedding, or you change up something that helps your sleep routine, or something actually about real estate. Could be shifting and changing on a dime quite quickly, excuse me, when Venus conjuncts Uranus on the 4th of July. Then Venus ingresses into your natal fifth house of Gemini. So this is about your kids, artistic endeavors, romantic connections, sex, and fertility. And Venus is about relationships and love and what she's attracted to. And in Gemini, it's a lively transit. So think of those topics and subjects that are near and dear to your heart. uh, the focus here for romantic partners, children, and artistic endeavors, sex and fertility, the focus here is, where do those topics and subjects intellectually stimulate you, and where do they siphon your energy mentally? So you'll be able to, again, intuitively, find the value in communicating what's on your heart, and your kids and romantic partners, and anything you do artistically will be speaking loudly back to you, be that visually or verbally. So, really quite positive, uplifting, lively transit for you, with Venus cruising through Gemini, your natal fifth house, from the 4th of July to the 30th of July. Really quick transit. Venus is at top speed in the solar system at the moment. And Neptune begins its retrograde on the 4th of November at 2 degrees in Aries. Then Neptune really ingressed into your natal third house of Aries on the 30th of March. So it hasn't been here for very long. Neptune's a generational planet. Neptune's the visionary. It's about fantasy and illusion and deception. There's all these wonderful slash negative archetypal meanings connected to Neptune. And in that natal third house of siblings, travel and education, and your local environment, when Neptune goes into a retrograde at 2 degrees on the 4th of July, in your natal third house of Aries, then maybe you're starting to see the forest for the trees, for better of words, about your visions regarding siblings, traveling, and education, and where you engage on the daily. How's that making you feel? And also, what's been missing in action there that keeps you stimulated and focused. And if there has been, blurred lines or blurred communication between siblings, anything to do with education, travel, or within the community, then Neptune, when it goes retrograde from the 4th of July moving forward, you'll be able to navigate, if, translation that's been missing in action, and not having things firmly set or said and done with siblings, travel, and education. You will start to really feel into whether that's good enough or not. Do you need to do more investigation to get clearer about your path moving forward with things that are in your local community? So, all in all, when Neptune's retrograde, you get to see what you've been, proactively engaged with, or what's been going on with siblings, travel, and education from the 30th of March this year, and how, and if it's working out with you or not, and what needs to be cleared up, tidied up here for a bigger, brighter, better future that feels more in line, instead of confusing and not clear. So, all in all, quite positive. On the 7th, we have Venus sextiling your chart ruler Saturn and retrograde Neptune. And Venus is also trining retrograde Pluto in your natal first house. And Uranus begins its transit in Gemini. So astrologically, the 7th of July, like the 4th of July, it's a pretty big day in the solar system. So Venus is the key protagonist here on the 7th, with having all these sextiles and trines to the outer planets in your chart ruler Saturn. So this is a lot of communication and stimulation coming from those near and dear to you. So this day could be a lot of emails, a lot of talking, a lot of commuting on this day. So make sure you have, a good brekkie, drink your green tea, get plenty of sleep the day before on the 6th of July, because the 7th of July, you're called to action, a lot going on. So the big news is Uranus ingressing into Gemini on the 7th of July moving forward. And Uranus hasn't been in Gemini for over 84 years. So this astrologically is, this is headline news for us astrology enthusiasts. And it's going in that natal fifth house that we just talked about. And it's going to be retrograding back into your natal fourth house and then going back into your natal fifth house of Gemini next year in April, the end of April 2026, for over 7 years. So this is like a sneak peek, gives you a taste, if you will. So Uranus is a generational planet. So this could be changes of, the guard, if you will, with children, your romantic partnerships, sex, pregnancy, fertility, anything artistic. This is like an upgrade, out with the old, in with the new. And when I'm certainly not suggesting Aquarius rising sign, you got to get rid of everything you love, like your kids and your partner and your art projects. Not at all. Uranus is simply transforming that part of the natal house for you, which is your fifth house, that gives you a lot of joy and pleasure. And Uranus's function is to disrupt things, to take something that's almost routine and mundane into a new direction. So it's like a shake up, wake up call that you need to get you out of a funk. And that's to do with your children, fertility, sex, pregnancy, and your partners, anything artistic. So all in all, that's quite positive. I mean, Uranus in Gemini, variety, options, diversity, mental, intellectual stimulation, communication, travel, finance, it's all going on in your natal fifth house. And Uranus really, brings to the table a sense of futuristic thinking. So if children are applicable to you, then children may be really quite interested in things that are esoteric, or they'll have like moments of brilliance that will blow you off your perch. They could be really game changers for the future with whatever they're connected with regarding what they're doing, be that through sports, school, education, and it depends, of course, what age your children are, but they could be game changers for humanity with this transit. I mean, how cool is that? Romantic partnerships, well, just think of liberation and freedom. Then maybe you and a partner are coming to peace, or really changing up the intimate dynamics in the bedroom with this transit, or being comfortable with letting them do them and you do you, and changing up the guards and how you romantically connect with partners. That's quite optimistic and positive. I will be doing a future video about Uranus's transit in Gemini. So if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so if you like it, of course, and hit the bell notification button on the screen, and you'll be notified when I upload that video about Uranus's transit in Gemini for all zodiac signs. So I'm not going to labour on it too much because it's just a sneak peek, and like I said, it won't be permanently in your natal 2000 until April 24, 25, 2026. So it's not really anchored here, if you will. But from the 7th of July moving forward, you know, what gets your pulse going, your heart's desire. You proactively are engaged with sort of tilling the soil in the mundane of what is near and dear to you, and what excites you, and especially with children and sex and pregnancy and fertility and romance and anything artistic and creative. So there's going to be a real um, uh, inspiration and change going on in this natal house for you, which is quite positive, because that natal fifth house trines your natal first house. And so this also foretells astrologically that you're more than ready to start new starts with that natal fifth house and what's going on there. So really, really quite interesting and intellectually stimulating transit coming up for you with Uranus and Gemini. I mean, in Venus is currently transiting here in that natal fifth house of Gemini to the 30th of this month. So I wonder if you're getting a taste of what you love and value now, and how relationships in your life with your children and your partner and your artistic endeavors, sex and fertility and pregnancy. I wonder if something's going on now for you until the 30th of July that's sort of making you think about your future in a new and more liberating, freedom oriented way or different ways. So, yeah, really quite interesting for the Aquarius rising signs with Venus already in Gemini and then now Uranus stepping in from the 7th. On the 10th of July, we have our first lunation of the month, and it's a full moon, and it's at 18 degrees, lighting up your natal 12th house of Capricorn. And the moon is in detriment in Capricorn. But what I like about this, and that sounds very contradicting, is Jupiter's exalted in the moon sign of Cancer. So I'm not overly concerned about the detriment component of this full moon on the 10th of July. Because if we think of Jupiter being exalted in Cancer, functioning very well and, performing very well in Cancer, then the fact that that moon is in its zodiac sign of detriment being Capricorn, then there's a positive spin going on here. So let's talk about it. Now, that natal 12th house is about isolation, solitude, where we lose control, we lose ourselves. It's the part of the zodiac sign that's sort of part of the natal um, house system, the 12th house, that's to do with hidden enemies. And when you've got that emotional peak and acknowledgement, which is what a full moon phase is that aha moment where you get to emotionally recognize, understand, and see something that has been otherwise concealed from your view regarding isolation, solitude, and a hidden enemy. Then I wonder for you as a Aquarius rising sign if you're coming to some sort of emotional peace, if you will, about your community, something in your immediate environment, may have to do with a sibling or siblings, travel or education. And the reason for that is the ruler, the dispositor of that full moon on the 10th of July is your chart ruler, Saturn, because Saturn also rules Capricorn as it does Aquarius. And it's squaring that 12th house. So a square is a tension, a conflict. So this can be a peak of a conflict regarding something in your environment or to do with a sibling, siblings, travel, or education. And when you see something for what it is, as irritating or combative or, for better words, troublesome, you at the very least have a moment of clear sight emotionally. And when you see something that has otherwise been obscured or concealed, then you can deal with it and handle it. Because if something's been an illusion, like you can't put your finger on something regarding siblings or a sibling, travel, education, or something in your local community that's been hard to access, when you actually see it for what it is, then you can come to terms with it for better or worse. And Mars, which is the ruler of the zodiac sign of Aries, is currently transiting in that natal 8th house of Virgo, which is other people's resources, death, and inheritance. So this could also factor into, now I'm being very holistic about this, sort of covering all my corners here, trying to delineate to my best astrological ability on what you could experience on this day on the 10th of July with this full moon in Capricorn, with Saturn in Mars, the zodiac sign of Aries, and the ruler of Aries being Mars in the natal eighth house of Virgo. That I'm wondering if there's something about a financial component connected to travel, siblings, education, or inheritance or death. And that doesn't, necessarily mean a physical death, but it could be the death of something in your environment or to do with siblings, travel, or education that you're aware of now. You start to see it for what it is, or emotionally start to come to peace with resolving something that's been quite, for better words, hard to deal with or communicate about. So it's going to be a really interesting full moon for you as an Aquarius rising sign on the 10th of July. On the 13th, your chart ruler Saturn now goes into a retrograde in Aries, where Neptune only just begun its retrograde in Aries on the 4th of the month. So now your avatar, Saturn, is retrograding here in that natal third house of travel, education, and siblings. And much like Neptune, it hasn't been in Aries for very long. And Saturn only ingressed into your natal third house of Aries, I think it was late May. And it's only moved 1 degree. So when it starts retrograding back from the 13th of July, then you're certainly going to start to see the forest with the trees of what it's going to take, the effort, the heavy lifting and determination and grit to keep something going that you might have started engaging with regarding siblings, travel, education, or your local community. So you might really start to see things clearly on how they're working out or not, much like Neptune. So what I'm getting here astrologically for you, Aquarius rising signs, is your environment or community stimulating enough for you? What about travel, education, and siblings? How are those topics and subjects factoring into how you feel on a daily within your body? And wanting to start new starts, is are things working out for you? Or what have you started from the 25th of May? Now you get to see the fruits of your labor, or if the juice is worth the squeeze when your chart ruler Saturn retrogrades on the 13th of July. And then Saturn's having all these really nice trines and sextiles to the outer planets as well on the 13th. So again, this astrologically indicates that you'll be able to, spot the pitfalls, spot the problems, if you will, if there are any at all, or opportunities easily. And then that helps you navigate and make firm, strong, confident decisions moving forward. So the 13th of July is a pretty, for better words, intellectually downloading day where you just get aha moments everywhere that really do help you make confident decisions moving forward regarding your local community, environment, siblings, travel, and education. So quite positive from the 13th. How you going, Aquarius rising signs? A lot of astrology information, right? Yeah, astrologically, there's a lot going on in the solar system, as above, so below. So let's keep moving on the 18th. Mercury is sextiling Venus. So this would be a great opportunity to speak from your heart on this day. So if you need to have a DM, or you've been procrastinating and not wanting to go there regarding expressing what's on your mind, the 18th of July would be the day to be bold and go, "Ugh, I've just got to say what I've got to say." And no matter what subject or what topic it is, the 18th of July is the day where there is clear communication. It's pretty easy going and flowy with a sextile. So that means that anything that you are communicating about, talking about, thinking about is easily reciprocated from another. So the 18th of July is a great day to have that talk if you need to about anything at all. We also have Mercury beginning its retrograde in Leo in your natal seventh house of relationships and partnerships. And it will go direct next month on August 11. So Mercury is a very communicative planet. Mercury likes to travel, Mercury likes to talk, it likes to research, it likes to think about many, many things and Mercury can really go there. And Mercury is a planet of money. And it's been traversing in your natal seventh house, that angular part of your natal chart, no less. So, really important transit for you as an Aquarius rising sign since Mercury ingressed into your natal seventh house only last month. So, when it goes into a retrograde, things don't fall to pieces with relationships and partnerships. That's not what it means. Unfortunately, Mercury retrogrades have got a really, really bad rap. When planets are in retrograde, they're closer to the planet Earth. And when planets go into a retrograde, you get to see results of what has been going on since that planet has been traversing through those degrees of that zodiac sign. So I'm going to take you back, Aquarius rising signs. What was going on between you and a partner? What was coming up regarding money, travel, communication, anything to do with anything intellectual? What was going on with you and another on the 29th and 30th of June? Because that's coming back round and there's going to be a resolution or an outcome about that communication or interaction between you and another, be it intimate or otherwise, from the 29th and 30th of June. There's going to be a completion point. So from the 18th of July to the 11th of August this year, in 2025, what's happening here is back and forth dialogue. It's the conversation that began potentially on the 29th or 30th of June. It's going to be played out over and over and over again. So back and forward. Think of communication, travel, money, documents, paperwork. It's going to be a lot going on between you and another from the 18th of July before something's settled and resolved and comes to peace on August 11. So interesting transit for you with Mercury retrograding in Leo in your natal seventh house from the 18th of July before it goes direct next month. On the 22nd, we have the Sun moving into its zodiac sign of domicile, which is Leo. So the Sun functions very well in Leo and it will be here for 4 weeks, lighting up your natal seventh house where Mercury's just gone retrograde. Now, knowing that the Sun functions very well in your relationships and partnerships house, then this is where you get the benefits as an Aquarius rising sign when anyone that you connect with of your own volition is kicking goals, then doors are opening for you. So people are more available to communicate and connect with. People are in flow and in harmony. And when people that you knock shoulders with are doing well or, things aren't too much of a push for them to spend time with you, then this bodes well for an uplifting, lively transit with the Sun in Leo in your relationships house for 4 weeks. Enjoy it. We also have on the 22nd the Sun sextile Uranus in your natal fifth house of Gemini. And this sextile is an easy connection. So again, this can be a change of the guard because Uranus's function is to change things up. So when it sextiles the Sun on the 22nd of July, then this can be a sudden change for the better for you and a relationship in your life. Something is trying to move you and another in a new direction. So this can be a sudden surprise coming across your table on the 22nd of July. On the 24th, there's a lot going on astrologically on the 24th. We've got the Sun trine your chart ruler, retrograde Saturn, and also retrograde Neptune in Aries in your natal third house. The Sun is opposing retrograde Pluto in your first house. Venus is squaring off with Mars, and there's a new moon in Leo. So much going on. All in all, not to pull it to pieces, the 24th of July is hear everyone out kind of day. Be open and receptive to different points of view, and don't be shy in expressing yours. This is a great day of exchange of information, ideas, and concepts. What's going on for you versus what's going on for others will be easily to communicate and understand on the 24th of July. Really nice day for communication and openness. And the standout is a new moon in Leo at 2 degrees in your natal seventh house of relationships and partnerships. So this bodes well for a brand new start, a new relationship to really start to open up and blossom. This can be great for a mother in your life to start something new for herself, and you get to champion her, really help her out and go, hey, you're doing something just for you, mum. I'm proud of you. So this can be a great new start for a mother or a mother figure in your life. This is also a fantastic opportunity to partner up with someone in a new environment. So this is great for new jobs, getting involved with new groups. Maybe it's something theatrical or something sporty that you're beginning on the 24th of July. It looks really, really nice. Enjoy it with that new moon in Leo at 2 degrees in your natal seventh house. On the 30th, we have Venus ingressing into Cancer, joining Jupiter in your natal sixth house until the 25th of August. So we have the two benefic planets, Venus and Jupiter, working in unison in that natal sixth house of work, service, slavery, injury, sickness, illness, labor, the natal house of selfless service where we chop wood, carry water, the daily routine. But with Venus now joining Jupiter, this bodes well for coming into harmony and flow with the mundane. The daily stuff is just easy to deal with. You may be starting a new relationship. You might be starting a new work connection. You might be starting a new project that's near and dear to your heart that's just for you. Beautiful transit with Venus in Cancer in your natal sixth house with Jupiter until the 25th of August this year. Beautiful transit. Enjoy it. On the 31st, the last day of the month, we have the Sun conjunct retrograde Mercury. In your natal seventh house again, so there's lots of action going on in your partnerships and relationships house. Beautiful. But when we have a cazimi, which is what the Sun and Mercury coming together means, it's a cazimi moment. What we have here is an aha moment of clear communication, a clear understanding. So this is fantastic for a financial return or a financial document or a check coming in the mail on this day that surprises you or surprises a partner. This also indicates that this could be a surprise trip between you and a partner on the 31st of July and can be really, really, really good for just clear communication. Have a chat, talk about the future. Let's see where we're going. What are we doing together? Be that intimate or otherwise. The 31st of July is just a day of absolute clarity. Beautiful for talk, travel, money, easy flowing day. Enjoy that, the last day of the month, the 31st of July. So that's your astrology for the month. A lot to digest. I appreciate that. But the focus for you as a Aquarius rising sign is always about your chart ruler Saturn. And this month, retrograding in your natal third house of Aries with Neptune, with siblings, travel and education in your local community, that's your focus. And the focus is on feeling out if it's the right place. What do you need to adjust, if anything, regarding your day to day environment? Where can you seek and find inspiration? What really gets you going and makes you feel optimistic about your what's reflected back to you when you step out your front door? Are you in a space of inspiration and optimism and something youthful and exciting? Your chart ruler Saturn retrograding here will certainly give you the goods and give you the know-how on how to keep on moving forward in a direction that you started, or easily identify who, how, where, and why, how to detach from something that's anchoring or just not the right fit for you. So, quite an interesting astrological month for you, with Saturn now retrograding in your natal third house of Aries. So, till next time, Aquarius risings, stay cosmic.